Welcome into Triple Zeros. I'm your host, Josh Buchalter. Follow me on Twitter at JoshGBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports. Website, clockersports.com. And the email address is clockersports@gmail.com. We are in the second round of the NBA playoffs official. Well, not completely, because you still have the Utah Jazz and Denver Nuggets dragging their behinds. We'll get to them in a second. I want to start off with an award winner. Brandon Ingram has been announced. Did we get to talk about? Well, you know what? I don't think we spoke about it, but Giannis Antetokounmpo has won the Defensive Player of the Year. He's likely going to win the MVP award as well, so be on the lookout for that. But just recently, on Monday, it was announced that Brandon Ingram was the winner of the Most Improved Player of the Year award. Young man went from 18 points to 23 points per game this season, career high 39% from 3, 85% from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. Now, part of this is the fact that he was playing on a winning team, or a team that had a chance to go to the playoffs. They weren't a winning team. But the question remains: did they snub Devonte Graham of the Charlotte Hornets, the guard out of Kansas? He went from 4 points, 2 assists and a board, or two boards and assists, and 2 assists and a board, to 18 points, 7 and 3, 38. 37 from 3 and 82 from the free throw point line. Oh my gosh, from the free throw line. So I mean, listen, I get it. You had the higher profile player in Ingram, and he crossed that 20 point per game threshold. His time mostly remained the same as playing time. Graham definitely saw an uptick, but I mean, he made Terry Rozier, the big free agent acquisition, look kind of outgunned. I don't want to say he got snubbed, right? Because I think Ingram definitely deserved a bump in the recognition for upping his game. But it's kind of hard to say that you didn't snub Graham when the man went from 4 to 18 points per game. Like, come on, man. It's a scoring league, right? It's a guard. Like, let's not try to split too many hairs here and make this more complicated than it has to be. He went from 4-2-1 to 18-7-3. That's not small potatoes. Again, in a system, on a team that just got done doling out a nice size contract to a guard, irresponsibly, but nevertheless, he went out there and showed. So, well played. Good for you. And again, listen, Graham also had more opportunity because there's there's much less talent on the Hornets than there is on the Pelicans, but Ingram is the Pelicans' best player right now, right? Isn't he? I don't know. I don't know. I would say so. Maybe that depends on your opinion on Jrue Holiday. Zion's not there yet. He's got the potential to be the best one, I guess. But between, Ingram and the next guy, Holiday, that depends on your I guess, how high you want to rank Jrue Holiday. But yeah, again, it's just hard it's hard to overlook what Devonte Graham did this season down there with the Charlotte Hornets. So that's one that, I'm not upset about it because I like Brandon Ingram. I really am a fan of him. But this one, I mean, again, 4-18, that's a big jump, man. That's not small potatoes. But like I said, back to the action of the night, Monday night's games. Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell going back and forth. This was actually Sunday night's game between Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray, and these two have just been on a tear. So we'll start off with Jamal Murray. He averaged 18 points throughout the regular season, 19, 5-4. He was averaging 14 points in the seeding games. Remember, he only played in 4 seeding games coming back from injury. He only played in 4 seeding games. And then when he came in, he was hitting 34, 6, and 6 in the bubble. 34, 6, and 6 in the playoffs. And then in the last 3 games, he's hitting 47, 7, and 8, 64% from the floor, 63% from 3. He's lighting it up. And, it's funny because I have a sports group on Facebook, and we just recently did a top 25 under 25 list. And I'm ashamed to say Murray did not make my list. Now, again, I just told you the leaps that he's made just this season, 18 points per game in the regular season, which was a career high, mind you, for his regular season. This is before the shutdown. And then comes back, and it was 14 points per game. So, he was right there, but he wasn't on the list, and I'm really upset about that because damn it, he's out here looking like a very, very good player. And then on the other side, you have Donovan Mitchell averaging 38 points, 4 and 5 on 54 and 55% from the floor and from three. This season, he was 24, 4 and 4, and in the seeding games, 21, 4 and 5. So he's been doing the lifting for quite some time, and that's just what he does. And that's brings me to the question that I kind of find myself pondering: which one would I rather start my team around? And from what we just saw the other night between the two, you would say Murray because Mitchell can sometimes press and take wild shots. Murray, though, can do the same. He's just been hot, so it doesn't, it hasn't been detrimental thus far. I do think that Murray has the better team around him also. So that kind of takes some of the pressure off of him to do it all, even though he's been doing it all. So how do you really weigh that? And then you look at Mitchell, and surprisingly enough, and I didn't think I'd ever say this, but they miss Bojan. Like, they really, really miss Bojan. You're getting an extra bump from Mitchell and from Mike Conley, but you're just missing that other guy. And Clarkson's been great, but you can feel this team is just missing that one extra piece. So this one's going 7. Can't wait to see how it finally turns out. But kudos to these two dudes. So that's probably a question that I'll tweet out. But which one am I starting my franchise around? I think that you might say that Murray's the better. You definitely would say Murray's the better scorer, right? But is Mitchell the better all-around player? I'm not sure because his size. Murray has a size advantage. That's a tough one. That's a really tough question to answer because I've seen Mitchell hit 250 point. Both of these guys had 250-point games. So that's tough. That's a tough one. Same age. Jamal Murray came in a year earlier, but they are the same age. Murray's actually about to be 24. Or, I'm sorry, Mitchell's about to be 24. Yeah, man, that's a tough call. That's really close. Like I said, 34 points per game. 47 over the last 3 for Murray. Mitchell is at 38 and has been hooping his ass off. But I think he's overmanned. And I think this might be something I've talked about in here before. He's probably out of Utah the first chance that he gets, right? Like there's no chance he stays in Utah, right? I think we all can agree on that. That's not controversial or anything. That's not a hot take by any stretch. Moving on, another Western Conference team that just got sent home. The Dallas Mavericks put on a hell of a fight until KP, Kristaps Porzingis succumbed to injuries, and Luka Doncic was getting stepped on literally by one of the Morris twins, and they just didn't have enough to keep up with the Clippers. Now, I don't even really want to talk about the series because it's a disappointment for the Clippers that it took this much. It's a good showing for the Mavericks, team that's definitely on the rise, and it'll be interesting to see what they can do to this roster to add another guy that's reliable. But what I want to focus on is what's going to hold the Mavericks back ultimately, and that is the durability of Luka and obviously Kristaps Porzingis. Both of them have pretty extensive injury history. Porzingis is more severe, but Luka's got a few nicks and stuff that seem to be that will add up over time. We've seen Porzingis miss time, and when he misses time, like Porzingis misses time, right? And one of the worst things is to be all in on this guy, and then he misses that big chunk, and it ends up costing you your season. I've tweeted that out about a week ago, actually, that's what's going to be the thing to keep an eye on with them. It's not talent. These two dudes can ball, and they have the natural abilities to succeed for a long time in the NBA. But their bodies don't seem to want to be participants in that longevity. So you can only do what your body allows you for as long as that holds up. And they just don't seem to be built for the long run. Now, that could all be a strength and conditioning issue. Maybe they got to get the right nutritionist, and whatever the case may be. Right now, it doesn't look like they're going to be able to do what they do for very long. So, that's the thing. Joel Embiid, also out of the playoffs. We have gone to the Eastern Conference. We'll bounce back to the West real quick. But I want to talk about this one because this was funny. This is great. All the turmoil we've been talking about the Philadelphia 76ers, and if you've been following, and I know you have, right here on Triple Zeros, I had the 76ers as my team coming out of the Eastern Conference. That didn't last long. They looked dysfunctional going into the seeding, in the seeding games, and then Ben Simmons got hurt, and that was pretty much a wrap before everything even got started. They ended up getting swept out of the playoffs by the Boston Celtics, and that was pretty much all she wrote. But now we're seeing Joel Embiid tweet to former teammates and lead on that, he could be looking for his escape plan. Following the Heat's 115-104 victory over the Milwaukee Bucks, a game that Milwaukee led 40-29 after the first quarter, mind you. He tweeted out, Jimmy Butler's hashtag so good. He also tweeted out if followed by the 3 dots, like he out here thinking deeply. He commented on the picture of Jimmy Butler celebrating the victory with proud of you. He's sending real strong, hey, big head vibes right now. And Joel is a character because it could be trolling or it could definitely be fire. He talked about being unhappy and how he didn't like how things broke down. We know that Jimmy has been outed, where Jimmy was ousted basically because of Brett Brown. And people were blaming Jimmy for the longest time, but more time that goes on, especially down there in Miami, the more it seems like Jimmy had the right idea, and these other guys might just need to toughen it up a little bit, not be so sensitive. Karl Anthony Towns, I'm looking at you. Ben Simmons, I'm looking at you. So, proud of Jimmy. I'm proud of Jimmy, damn it. He was a little bit rough on the way out here in Chicago, but if he's doing good, that's great. I do think, he had 40. 27 in the second half, 15 in the fourth. Jimmy was hooping. Okay, this wasn't just like, the team in Miami Jimmy was balling. Jimmy's playing like a superstar right now. And on the other end, Giannis and his co-star combined for 8 points on 3 of 10 shooting in the fourth quarter. Giannis had 6 turnovers in the game, 3 in the fourth. He was 1 of 4 at the free throw line in the fourth quarter, 4 of 12 for the game from the free throw line. I've said this about Ben Simmons, but it really applies to Giannis too. For all the attempts to get him to stretch his game out to the mid-range and to the three-point line, the free throw line has to be the number one option, or excuse me, the number one focus to fix, right? That has to be, I need you to be somewhere in the 80s range, because when all else fails, they're going to try to send you to the line. And I mean, he was out here smoking free throws like air balls, fam. Not a good look. Hey, you about to win MVP. That's sad. 8 points, and I think he only had like 3 shots or 4 shots in the fourth quarter. Like, it's not, you're the MVP, right? You can't go out sad like that. And what makes it worse is he had only he didn't even have half of the points between he and Middleton, and that's another topic altogether. Now this is why I have the Heat advancing past Milwaukee, because I just don't think Milwaukee has an answer for the versatility that the Heat have. Despite Milwaukee having a very good roster, they're just kind of locked into what they are. Middleton had 7 points in the second half. I'm gonna say it again. Middleton had 7 points in the second. That is unacceptable, completely. But I'm not surprised. He's a very good number 3. I don't think he's a number 2 option. I think that listen, it would be, he had 28 for the game, so it's not like he didn't score at all game. It was just off. Second half, he only had 7. He had a quarter of his points after halftime. That's not good news. That doesn't bode well for a team like the Heat that, again, is going to outwork you more than anything, and now they have some confidence. That should be concerning to the Milwaukee Bucks. But Eric Bledsoe didn't play this game, so maybe that makes a difference. That's 11 points, right? Easy. But that has to put a little bit of the fear of God. Now, Milwaukee did have a little bit, some troubles with the Orlando Magic. So I'm not going to sit there and say that they're done for. But this was a very good start for the Heat and a very bad look for Milwaukee, for Giannis, and for Chris Middleton in particular. Going back to the Western Conference, Russell Westbrook tricked the game away. Look, man, Russ is my favorite active NBA player, just like Cam Newton is my favorite active NFL player. I point that out because if you know, both of those two are two of the wildest dressing dudes in professional sports, but my favorite players because I think that they are both just freak athletes, one-of-a-kind type players, and that's my favorite too. Just really weirdos when it comes to the clothes. That's fine. Not my concern. So, back to Westbrook, though. The Houston Rockets were up 3-2 on the Oklahoma City Thunder and had a lead later in the game, but ended up, giving that up because they just were going cold. And Westbrook had himself one hell of a bad night. He missed about a month. He's been off for quite some time, so I don't want to act like he was supposed to be coming in fresh, but we know the whole narrative on this team, really, and this is before they even came together. James Harden is the guy who fades when the playoffs start. He's the guy who you can't count on down the stretch. He's the guy who kind of shies away from the spotlight. Russell Westbrook is the guy who is 100% all the time to a fault, right? It becomes a detriment at times because he just kind of has that one-track mind. I think we saw a lot of that in this game. That's not something that needs to happen. So just the other night, Westbrook set a record, or not a record, but a personal record, I guess, for not turning the ball over for the first time in like 2-3 years or something like that. It might have been it might be more than that. It could have been. I don't remember. It was years though. Like this wasn't just a season, And I feel I want to say I feel pretty confident that it was more than just 2. So like it was bad. That's how bad or how long the streak has been going on. And so you look at the game, and he's got everything is just decided to go slow. You look at the game, and he's been out since the middle of August. He's been out for about a half a month now. Comes in, he had turnovers. He played the game. Just played the game on Saturday. I want to say the 29th was Saturday. Yes, he played on Saturday. He played 23 minutes. He had 7 points, 7 assists, 6 boards, and that was when he ended up having the 0 turnovers for the first time in, like, again, this is like 3 to 4 years we're talking about here. So, but then again on Monday night against the Oklahoma City Thunder, he ended that game with 7 turnovers. And when I say turnovers, I'm talking about throwing the ball out of bounds. You know that picture that was circulating about a week or so, 2 weeks ago, Paul George or of Kawhi looking up at Luka with the steal? It was like that. He had one of those kind of moments where he was just tripping over himself. They dared him to shoot an air ball late. He did it. He shouldn't have done it. It was not good. And then it was worse in the fourth quarter. He had 2 turnovers in, so I mean it wasn't the worst, but he had 4 points, 2 of 5 from the floor, and it just wasn't good. He only played 8 minutes, but it wasn't good. And Harden, for all the talk about him, he only had 6 points. He was 1 of 6 from the floor, 1 of 4 from 3, and he did hit 3 from 3 from the free throw line, but it just wasn't in the 6 points. And the worst part about it all is at the end of the game, Russ, who, again, like I said, had 7 turnovers, ends up getting the ball for some reason and has the ball all the way up the floor. You can pretty much assume how it ended up after that. I don't think I need to really explain it any further. It wasn't pretty. The turnover was bad, but predictable. Like I said, he was playing a little bit out of sorts. He looks like a guy who's just trying to get his legs back under him. He had 17 in his game. Harden had 32, but Harden, I don't know how he's not walking down the floor with him to give him another option. I don't know if that was designed for Russ to go take that shot. Again, he shot 53% from the floor, 53 and 50% from three. He only shot 2 threes, but still. And Harden was 3 of 11. He's been bad from deep. But you can't let. It's frustrating. I mean, Russ is my favorite player, like I said, but Harden's supposed to be the best player on this team. And it was people kind of pointed out how he said that Russ was the leader a couple of nights ago. And I didn't really think much of it, but that might have been more telling than I even not wanted to acknowledge because I mean, damn, I get it. Russ is the closer. That's why you brought him in there. But damn, dog, my man had 7 TOs. You gotta. I feel like in that moment you have to at least escort him down the court and let him know that you are there. Do not panic. Do not tweak. I'm right here. If it doesn't go right, pass me the damn ball. And that didn't happen. And now here we are. It's not game 7, baby. So you're going to get Denver and Utah on Tuesday night. And then Wednesday night you get Houston and OKC. Love it. Free basketball. You were close. You almost got it with Dallas and the Clippers. You're going to get it now. Back in the Eastern Conference, can the Toronto Raptors bounce back? They lost game 1, 112-94 against the Boston Celtics. The Celtics had 5 starters in double figures. Kemba Walker had 18 and 10 assists. Marcus Smart had 21 points, and then Daniel Tice had like 13 and 15 or something like that. A nice double-double. But they shot 43% from three going up against the Toronto Raptors, who were led in scoring by Kyle Lowry. Anytime Kyle Lowry is the leading scorer on the game, it's probably not a good sign. That's probably not a good outcome in the works, especially when he led the team with 17. And the Raptors as a team shot 25% from 3. If there is any chance, they have to get that shaped up. But what's interesting here, and honestly something that I mentioned with the who do you pick between Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray, and the problem that I think is going to be an issue for Conley and Mitchell, and trying to stop Murray and the other guys in that backcourt is the size. You can't teach that, and no matter what you can do offensively, you can't stop it. And while they can't stop you too, I think, again, like I said, Murray is probably the better scorer there. And back on this game, I think that's what you're going to see, or that's what you saw in Boston, in a guard and Kemba who can match up size and at least feistiness with Kyle Lowry. And Marcus Smart, who was a dog, like I told you, gave you 21 points in this game, is starting contributing with Gordon Hayward not playing. That's a problem for Toronto. And then Pascal Siakam looking very much like a guy still figuring it out. Very hyped, so there's a lot of expectations on him. Who knows if he can ever reach how lofty those goals were. But it definitely doesn't look like a guy who is approaching superstar status. Game 1, at least. We'll see what he does for game 2. He's going to have to bounce back in a big way. But I picked Toronto to win this series. Boston jumped out on them and didn't look back and looked really good doing it. And I got the Heat coming out the East now. But look out, because damn it, Boston looked really good in game 1. We'll see how they look next game. And then finally in the NBA, wrapping that part up, you had the Bulls getting permission to speak with Ime Udoka, the assistant from the 76ers. So who knows? That could be something that happens pretty quickly. They move that one in. Now, again, my target was Kenny Atkinson. He's a free agent, though, so you don't have to announce that because you don't need permission. But I think that there would still be confirmation whether or not that they had to ask or not. I don't think that matters. I think they still would have said something about it be buzz if that was something building. Anywhere it goes. I think we start seeing some action now with some of these coaches getting eliminated and some of them becoming more available. We already know they're trying to get other assistants as well. Movement should be expected. Hopefully it keeps going that way. Switching over to the NFL. I have to get this back in. Westbrook, they tricked the game where, like I said, Royce Young of ESPN, in the fourth quarter of Game 6, Chris Paul had 15 points on 5 of 7 shooting. He was 3 of 3 from 3 with 0 turnovers. Russell Westbrook and James Harden combined for 10 points on 3 of 11 shooting, 1 of 4 from 3, and 3 turnovers. Had to get that in there. So I'm going to splice that back somehow. Switching gears to the NFL. Leonard Fournette was released by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Vegas likes him going to the Chicago Bears. But before we get into that, we got to talk about the exodus that has happened from the Jacksonville Jaguars and how they have just gotten so far away from the team that looked like they were turning the corner and on the cusp of reaching the Super Bowl the year the Patriots actually ended up doing it. But it couldn't get over that hump, and now they've lost Jalen Ramsey, Dante Fowler, Blake Bortles, which they probably don't really care too much about that. Allen Robinson was an early casualty of that group. This is how bad teams stay bad, because when you have it, you don't know how to keep it and maintain it. Telvin Smith is a guy who ended up stepping away and having issues off the field. Good luck, Josh Allen. Yeah, it's DJ Shark. It's a thing, like you just wonder, you keep saying it's the player and attitudes, and the players seem like they have some attitude, some diva to them, but at the same time, a lot of players do, and a lot of teams can seem to control that, but the Jacksonville Jaguars don't seem to be able to do that, and they seem headed for another full-on rebuild, and I mean, hey, if you're going to do it right, but I just don't know if you can. I catch a lot of flack for it, but I often said there are some markets and some teams that are just ran like glorified farm systems because they don't, again, know how to maintain talent that they cultivate. That's unfortunate because this is a team, and I'll talk about this a little bit more later because, again, like I said, he was linked to the Bears, but this was a team in Jacksonville that was compared to the Bears, and we've seen their trajectories kind of follow similar paths. And if we're talking about Fournette, who was also taken above Mahomes and Watson, and people lamented them people went after Jacksonville rightly because they had Blake Bortles, and that was their big security blanket. That doesn't make any sense ever in any universe. So this is like the trajectory of the Bears, right? Because we see this happen with them where they end up letting Mitch walk, and they got to have this announcement, and people are liking him to go to the Jaguars because Gardner Minshew didn't fulfill whatever, they thought he was like, dude, we're getting into the weeds here, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Like this is pretty foreboding about what's to come for the Bears, and we already know the quarterback competition has been lackluster. But I don't know if that means that the winner of the competition necessarily sticks around for next year. That just means you won the job this year, and again, you could still be bad because we haven't heard many positive things about either guy. Either if it's a day here, a day there, and hasn't been consistent, and neither one's lighting it up. That's for damn sure. So concerns there. But the Fournette thing is interesting for the Jacksonville Jaguars and how much talent that they've lost. Vegas is saying that the Bears, with David Montgomery going down, would be a good fit for him. I'm not sure about that. I don't know about that. But I'm a Devonte Freeman fan, but he wants more money. But we'll get into that in a second too. Yannick Ngakoue was traded to the Minnesota Vikings for a second-round pick. He took a $6 million pay cut. You really wanted to get out of Jacksonville. See how I'm talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars and people wanting to get out? This is why. This is a problem that they're going to have to address at some point in time. And it's a culture issue. You can keep saying it's the players, but you had to pick the players, and you keep picking these type of guys. So even if it's them, it's you, right? That's just kind of how it works. When you pick the ingredients, when you're shopping for the groceries, don't be mad when the soup tastes like crap. Something like that. Some deep, wise metaphor. Derwin James, safety for the Los Angeles Chargers, will be out for the season after having to undergo meniscus surgery. That's a tough blow for a team that is constantly banged up. They're breaking in a new quarterback this year, Tyrod Taylor. You got, what is the young man's name out of Oregon? Oh no. What is his name? You got the quarterback out of Oregon. Now I have to look this up. This is bad. I feel horrible right now. And while I do that, though, you have the Chargers and missing out on Derwin James, who's an All-Pro safety, is a big blow as it is. But what makes it worse is that they just can never get right. So when their team was healthy last year, you saw Melvin Gordon with the holdout that backfired on him. You see Austin Eckler this year, and I'm definitely stalling for time so I can pull up this reference for the young man out of Oregon's name. I cannot think of his name for the life of me. This is going to really, really bother me. But the point is, this is just a team, the Chargers, that just can't seem to get right, and I don't understand why that is. Like, who did they piss off? Right? Somebody had to be upset for them to never be able to get a fully healthy season. The year that they went to the playoffs and made the Ravens look silly with that defense, Justin Herbert. Damn it! I wish I'd have. Come on, man. You got to be better than that. Gotta be better. I couldn't remember that for the life of me. Oh, okay, we can move on now. Yeah, Derwin James, though, going down is a significant blow for a team that, like I said, has been dealing with injuries for a long time, forever, quite often, or quite honestly for forever. Hopefully they get that solved, and hopefully he can come back better than ever, because I really enjoy him play. Florida State, just the Noles doing what they do. Frank Gore, the ageless wonder, is reportedly outperforming Le'Veon Bell in camp. Could this be the disgruntled back on his way out that is Lev Bell, or could it just be Frank Gore refuses to go away, and no matter what, he's gonna put anybody you put in his way out of their misery and take their job because he just doesn't give a damn? That's incredible. Good for him. Glad to see him out here. Lev Bell has been worse for the wear after sitting out that year. Lost money, and it seems to have lost the juice that he once had. Could be a bad offensive line, could be a bad fit. I mean, him and Adam Gase have no love lost. Adam Gase made no bones about the fact that he didn't want Le'Veon Bell once Gase got the job, but he's there, and they just haven't seemed to. Gase is not a guy who's going to smooth it over, and Le'Veon Bell isn't a guy that's going to smooth it over. So this is probably a union that has gone on for far too long as it is. 49ers put Fred Warner on the COVID list. He was the first notable player to go on the COVID-19 restricted list, so just keep an eye on that because he might not be the last. Matt Nagy says he won't announce a starter before the opener, but then he backtracks and says he'll announce one next week. No replacements to our running back room seems to be coming. That's why I mentioned the odds for Leonard Fournette's kind of because it doesn't seem like they're prepping that. If they wanted to go in that direction, they could have already done so. I don't see Fournette changing anybody's mind in that direction. The Bears, though, are plus 265 on that if you're trying to put some money on it. I wouldn't. Then I'm not right now for American Betting Experts, but you can check me out on American Betting Experts now too, trying to win you some money, trying to win myself some money too, as we learn and grow in this game together. But that is going to do it for this episode of Triple Zeros. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at JoshyBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, the website, clockersports.com, the email address, clockersports@gmail.com. Always check out the stuff, Last Word on Pro Football, PippinAintEasy.com, American Betting Experts. And until the very next time, man, I'm gone.